Half-Life Alyx is here and it's really good. So Valve made a great game. Valve is back, baby, but that still leaves open the question, why did it take them so long to do this? Why did they leave one of the biggest franchises in gaming dormant for so long?
Yeah, Half-Life 3, or more accurately, Half-Life 2 Episode 3 has been one of the biggest mysteries in gaming for a long time now. It's been more than 12 years since Half-Life 2 Episode 2 ended on a cliffhanger and then nothing.
There's been reams of speculation as to why we never got Half-Life 3, but now one Valve developer opened up as to why that never actually happened. IGN interviewed level designer Dario Casali, who had been at Valve since 1996. During the interview, he gave us an answer as to why Half-Life 3 never actually happened.
And the answer is, well, okay, there's several reasons. It sounds like they had concepts, but they weren't happy with any of them. Plus, Casali said that Valve was worried about scope creep in the episodes, which were originally supposed to be smaller releases that only took about a year to make. Meanwhile, the company was anxious to put resources into developing the new Source 2 engine. It all combined to turn Half-Life 3 into the biggest piece of vaporware in gaming history.
Yeah, Casali said that after Half-Life 2 took 6 years to develop, they decided they didn't want to go dark that long before the next installment, which is extremely ironic in hindsight. That's where the idea of episodes came along. He said that we thought, well, we have the stable technology now, we understand the characters, we understand the story, we have most of the mechanics, let's just bite off little chunks and then release more often.
Yeah, so the plan was to develop and release each episode in a year, so it worked at first, but by episode 2, he said, they'd found themselves creeping ever forward towards, well, let's just keep putting more and more and more and more stuff in this game, because we want to make it as good as we can, and then we realized these episodes are turning more to sequels.
Another contributing factor was that Half-Life games weren't just games from Valve's perspectives. They used Half-Life games to push technology forwards, whether it's a new engine or whatever.
And Casali said that after episode 2, they were looking for what is going to make that next big impact, and it seems like nothing did. They did work on some Half-Life based project, but obviously nothing ever got released. Casali said that we were never really happy with what we came up with.
Yeah, and at Valve, they're not happy with the project or it just isn't working out, they won't release it. So the short answer is that they just never came out with something they were happy enough to release.
Plus, obviously at that point, there was a lot of expectation around the Half-Life series, and Valve surely felt the weight of that. If they were going to release Half-Life 3, it had to be good, but obviously nothing they came up with was up to snuff. Meanwhile, Valve was already working on the Source 2 engine, and Casali said they didn't want to make a new Half-Life game at the same time.
Yeah, Casali told IGN, we didn't want to make that same Half-Life 2 mistake again of working on Source 2 and the next Half-Life game at the same time, because that created a lot of pain the first time we tried to do that. So instead, they ultimately just moved on to other things. We eventually got what seemed like a synopsis of Half-Life 3's plot from former Valve writer Mark Laidlaw, but nothing official.
This does leave the question open, though. Now that Valve's making Half-Life games again, could they finally wrap things up with 3? The reception to Alyx seems great, so it's shown that gamers and critics still have a lot of love for the series, so it's not crazy to think that they'll give it another shot.
Yeah, or maybe they'll wait to release it for the Valve Brain implant in 2030. Either way, we've got a new Half-Life game, so let's just enjoy that for now.